C-Web now kind enough to call into the program. How are you, Chris?
Hey, good. How you doing today, Rich?
I'm doing fine. I mean, the Warriors are unlike anything I've ever seen. I wonder what you think about it.
Oh, man, there's something special. And I think this reminds us that it is the core of Curry, Thompson, and Draymond. That's why it's special. Yes, they added another MVP, and they have the unique position of having two MVPs on their team. But as we see with one of the greatest players in the league, if not the best player in the league, Kevin Durant, out, that what made them so great was their style of play, their ball movement, including everyone, making every playable valuable on the floor as long as they understood their lanes. And the role players are some of the best role players, and definitely the stars, specifically Draymond, Curry, and Thompson. Man, they're just special to watch.
I don't even know how you beat them, Chris. I mean, you're seeing the two teams that are vying for the right to answer that question, seeing what those guys can do and knowing what the Warriors are doing. Tell me how they get beat.
Well, you get beat with Antetokounmpo. You get beat with, it's funny, in all my years, and I've been around the league about 27 years, I've never seen an East Coast team play fast pace and play West Coast basketball. I've never seen it. Never seen a coach have the nerve to try to implement it. I've never seen a team have the skilled players to try to do it. And right now, the Bucks are playing with the fastest pace of any team in the playoffs in the last 20 years. So they get up and down. They play a little bit of old school because they score a ton of points inside. They shot and made the second most amount of threes in the league. And again, they're playing fast pace and they play with defense. And so this is special what we're watching. But as we've seen in the press conferences, after they talk about how special it is to get to five, they remind us that it's not about making it to five, it's about winning when you get there. And so they understand that all this is fine and dandy, but it could be ended abruptly by a team like the Bucks. Even though, most people would say it's not likely, it still is the league, and you still have an MVP candidate, Antetokounmpo, West Coast coach, and Coach Bud, and guys that can get it done. And so hopefully you have guards that can make shots, that can put pressure on the Golden State guards, and then hopefully you have a star that can close it and you have some shooters around you. And not that this series is over yet, but looking at a team like the Bucks, it would be still a good series.
Do you think they'd need Durant in order to win it all?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because Durant's the best player in the world, and even though we've seen this great play and this has been remarkable, this is still a small sample size against a team that they swept years ago, that they swept last year. So do not get it twisted. They would not have won last year without Durant by no stretch of the imagination. They went to Game 7, and Houston had to miss 27 threes in a row because Durant, when others aren't scoring or go into a slump, he's the all-great fixer. He's the one that separates himself from everyone with his efficiency, his height, his shooting, and being able to post up. Guards then can't keep going at Curry as they do because they have to watch out for Durant. So, no, they need all hands on deck to win this championship because they're still a team. It's still not about those three guys that I keep bringing up. They are the core and the heart and soul, but they need other players to get it done.
Chris Webber, Turn to Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. It seems to me, again, this may be just a knee-jerk reaction over the last 5 games, having heard him wired for sound, and I know you and Reggie talked about it on the Turner broadcast about what we heard on a microphone that ESPN and ABC's microphones picked up from Draymond Green talking to Jordan Bell. That Green's maturity has caught up with his ever-burgeoning game. What do you think, Chris?
No, this is who he is. This is who he's always been. We just got to hear it. This is who he was 5 years ago. I've known Draymond since high school. I've admired his game, his heart. I'm very close with Coach Izzo. We talk about Draymond a lot. No, this is who he is. We just had some great guys on the mic, and they caught a glimpse and allowed the world to see a glimpse of who he is. But that's who he's been the whole time and consistent. If he wasn't that way, his teammates would like playing with him. And so his teammates wouldn't like playing with him, and they love playing with him because this is what we see. And so a lot of times in sports, whatever the narrative is from the major media, a lot of us in the locker room laugh because we know what those guys are. And a lot of times those guys don't want to share the sensitivity or how encouraging and things like that they are, because it's really no one else's business but them and the guys on the team. So if it wasn't for a dunk missed and a play like that, we would not have got to see the compassion and the will of Draymond. So, but that happens a lot, and no, it's not more maturity. It's just who he is. So if he cusses out Durant in a couple weeks, it's not a relapse. It's just part of who he is.
Well, then I guess maybe I chose the wrong example then to ask the question. He says that he realized over the last couple weeks that he's doing more crying than playing basketball, and decided he even said that he changed something, or at least an approach, Chris.
Over the last couple of weeks, because he was crying more than normal, but he'll get back to crying. He cried a lot last night, and he'll get back to it. But no, it's not graduation. It's not,
okay.
He went to counseling. He knows himself, and he knows that sometimes it's better for him to be a jerk, and then he knows that sometimes I better come back and balance that for guys on my team. So he totally understands.
Chris Webber here on the Rich Eisen Show from Toronto. All right, let's talk a little bit of Raptors in tonight's game. Chris, your concern level for Kawhi's health is what?
Well, first I'd just like to say this, because last year I got dogged a lot because I'm very close with Coach Popovich and Kawhi, and I hated the narrative that Kawhi quit. So for everyone that said last year he quit and that he didn't have heart, and that he wasn't a great teammate because he didn't talk and spill his soul out to the media, I hope that you're eating your words right now. Secondly, Chris Ledlow did an interview with him after the game, and one coach told me that he's playing on one leg, and he said everybody's hurt this year, and he didn't embellish, and he didn't take a knee and act all tired like some players may do when they fought through adversity. And so, number one, I love the consistency of him. When he's hurt, he's not going to talk about it, and when he hits you with 35 points and dunks and steals and hobbling on one leg, he doesn't embellish. And so I'm glad for him that hopefully all the critics have been silenced about the nonsense that they were talking last year, just trying to take the side of a coach that they never met before. And so I'm happy about that. But I still think it's about the bench, man. When you look at the bench of this Toronto team, the question has been who's going to step up. Kawhi is going to play well, but if it wasn't for Norman Powell, how he came in and played, and would this team be in that position? So I'm looking for Van Vliet. Where is he? In the regular season, he averaged 11. In this series, he's averaging 4. He's been 3 for 25 and 3-pointers from the last 10 games. So where is he? Danny Green, everybody skips over him. He's a starter. He only had 3 points and was 1 for 9. He started 0 for 8 the other night. And so in this series, he's 4 for 14. You need guys to step up. And so for me, Kawhi has been that constant, especially on both ends of the floor. But it really doesn't matter if he doesn't get any help. They can go home pretty soon if those other players don't step up.
Couple topics outside of the playoffs, Chris, before I let you go, if you don't mind. Frank Vogel introduced as what everybody here in town clearly knows wasn't the first choice to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And that happens on the day that Magic Johnson goes on First Take and torches the Lakers like it's King's Landing. What do you think LeBron's thinking this very morning, Chris?
I think things probably make a little more sense to him. That Magic didn't quit on the team, but if Magic wasn't allowed to do what he was brought in to do, then he doesn't have time to sit around and be a figurehead. I don't think Magic really destroyed the Lakers. I think he told us what's going on there, and for a lot of us, we understand what players and people in basketball that don't care about the outcomes think of the Lakers, and I'm not just saying that as somebody that went through the Lakers or played against them. I've been a Laker fan my whole life, and so you're kind of you're kind of seeing the truth. I mean, I think it's just that simple. Why wouldn't you have Magic be able to make decisions? Why wouldn't you hire Ty Lue? Because the optics don't look good? when you got LeBron, you knew that you were going to probably have to hire a guy that he likes. What's wrong with that? You do the same for Brady. If he didn't have Belichick, you know, you always try to find a quarterback coach. And so anytime you're in a situation where you hired the coach from the Sacramento Kings and they didn't make the playoffs, and you're talking about free agents or something like that, and then you're misleading yourself. You're just stuck in the narrative that everybody wants to go to L.A. like they can't live there in the summer, and that they want to take on the beast of the media and the pressure and have that be thrust upon them without the responsibility being thrust throughout the organization. So I think it is the truth, and it's what a lot of us already kind of thought that was going on in there. And I know Magic smiles and tend to think he's a nice guy or aloof, but he's part of the joke. He knows what's going on, and once he couldn't be part of the remedy, I see why he got the hell out of Dodge. What you're gonna shoot him and not let him make any decisions. It reminds me of the old football saying, if you're gonna, what did Parcells say? Was it Parcells or who said that
the groceries.
They want you to cook without doing a little shopping and getting your own groceries? And so Frank Vogel is not the guy that free agents are going to come looking forward to play for. From his time in Indiana to his time in Sacramento, he's a good coach, but we're talking about super free agents and the fact that everything has to be right to try to recruit them, and the fact he came from a losing team and basically Sacramento and LA switched coaches. That doesn't do much for the narrative or the story to make anyone enthusiastic, and it's not Coach Vogel's fault. It's just all the talk that was done before then.
Well, I mean, I hear you on the why not hire a guy for LeBron statement. I do want to offer a little
coach.
No, you're right. Yeah, I do want to offer a little bit of pushback on the other part of it, where Magic, when he said goodbye in some, there's no other way to put it, strange, bizarre press conference that even LeBron on his HBO show was questioning about getting zero heads up on from Magic. He didn't say at the time, I wasn't allowed to make my choice. He said, I wanted to fire Luke, and I just don't have, that's not who I am. I'm not the guy who fires people, or alters families like that. And now to come out on First Take the day that Vogel is announced, and I know that was apparently prearranged, it was a different story, Chris. That was the thing that left me scratching my head yesterday.
I don't know if it was a different story or if he just stopped in frustration. First of all, let's be honest that was not a good look, that you would quit and not tell Janie Buss. So I'm not absolving him in any of the way that anything was expressed.
Right.
And the interview yesterday was pre-planned, but I think what happened was that he tried to quit and get away from it, and everyone kept dragging him down and saying, wow, Magic quit and did this and did that, and then he had to come back and say, okay, y'all want the truth? Well, this is what happened. So I don't look at it as a change of story. I think that, he didn't want to tell all the dirty stuff, and then he kept being pushed, and his character kept being questioned, and then he said, okay, you want to know what happened? This is what happened. So I look at it more as, him trying to, I can't say take the high road because he did it unceremoniously the way that he announced, but within that, I would say that he wasn't trying to put his foot on the throat of the Lakers in any type of way, and he had to come out and defend himself. And this is what we were hearing behind the scenes anyway when he abruptly quit. So it made sense. But everybody's culpable. But again, the fact remains you hired Frank Vogel to be the head coach, and that fact remains he is not better than Ty Lue. Everybody talks about Ty Lue as if he did not win a championship. Mm-hmm. That's what's hilarious to me. Everyone acts like he can't coach because he won a championship for LeBron. Well, who else won a championship for LeBron? People don't talk about Spoelstra like that, and he had LeBron, D-Wade, and Shaq on the team. So he's a great coach, and I think that he should have been considered. And I think that more free agents listen and like Ty Lue than the media. I think it's the media that doesn't really respect his coaching acumen. And I think it was a mistake not to hire him because if you don't win a championship in these 3 years, this whole project has been a mistake. And how would you hire a coach that never won a championship to win a championship with the guy that won a championship and it's a last desperate play? I don't get it.
And last one for you, Chris. I would be remiss if I didn't ask my Wolverine friend who you think would be best for the job that Beeline suddenly left vacant. at Michigan. Do you have a thought on the subject?
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, my phone went off last night, and I'm very uncomfortable because you hear rumors of someone already being hired, and I know Juwan's getting interviewed today. But just let me tell you a little bit about Juwan. He's the first professional that I ever met in my life that wasn't, a grown-up. He's been a professional since he's been young, one of the hardest workers. He's the first NBA player, and if I'm not mistaken, that graduated on time but left early for the NBA, coming out his junior year. He's been under one of the best basketball minds ever over the last 10 years, and that man's name is Pat Riley. He's worked with some of the best players. He's won a championship, and he's played with the best. The best players such as LeBron, D. Wade, and others respect him. I don't know. First of all, Coach Beeline was a hell of a coach. And I wonder what went on there to make him quit so abruptly, like magic. But he was a heck of a coach, and we really didn't get any recruits, not one McDonald's All-American. And so to assume that another coach can come in there and recruit, number one, coach as well as Beeline, that's going to be tough. And then number two, to recruit and to out-recruit Izzo and Coach K and others that take the talent from the Detroit area, from the Michigan area. In my opinion, I was very close with Bo Schembechler. In my opinion, this is a Michigan man, and of course I'm biased, but I'm also biased because if my son were lucky enough to get a scholarship and it was between Juwan and the greats, I would have him go there. Not because Juwan was my friend, but because I know the talks that he would have with my son when I wasn't there. I know he would help him to be a man. He would help him to be accountable. I know he would work his butt off harder than any other coach would. And I know his compassion. The day that he signed at Michigan, he lost his grandmother, and how important she was to him. And so I look at the total man, Juwan. I look at the passion. I tell you this, I know that he would love for his house to be on State Street, that he would live on campus, and he would stay there and retire an old man. I know that that's what he wants. I know that there's no other job in the world that he would want more than that. I know there's nothing he would put his soul into more than his wife and his kids than that job. And so when you talk about guys, bleeding maize and blue, guys that actually went there, I know coaches can come and adopt and be part of a culture, but if all things being equal, it's about the guy that lived in the dorms and went to class and lived in South Quad and had the snowball fights with West Quad, and that knows the tradition, that you don't have to explain anything to them. And it's not about the Fab Five getting back together, even though, of course, you already know we'd be there every second, every game. You'd have to, kick us out from cheering, telling us to quit cheering so loud. But it's also about the Glenn Rices, the Ramil Robinsons, the Mark Hughes. It's about the classes that came before that as well, how they embrace Juwan. And I just think it would be it'd be a great galvanizer for everyone. And forget me if that's the problem, and forget me, it would galvanize everyone else and put everyone together. And so I just know the man he is, and more importantly, I know that there's nothing more in the world that he would want. He's been waiting for this opportunity, and so you replace a guy like Beeline, you better have all your boxes checked, and I think he would.
You better come correct. Well, I'm galvanized, and I say on behalf of me and every single Michigan person I know of, +1, Chris Webber, +1 on that subject. Thanks for the call, Chris. Really appreciate it. Loving your call with Marv, as always.
Hey, thank you so much, Rich. Always appreciate being on, baby.
Right, you got it. That's Chris Webber, at Real Chris Webber.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live, or download the Rich Eisen Show app.